When he finds out that a war is brewing in the sea, Aquaman refuses to get involved. However, when the war hits close to home, he abandons everything and decides to put an end to everything, getting a sweet surprise on the way. On a stormy night in Maine in 1985, a lighthouse keeper, Thomas Curry, sees something on the ocean banks. He's horrified to find an unconscious woman. He quickly brings her back to the lighthouse and nurses her wounds. The woman wakes up the next day and quickly lunges at Thomas. She does weird things like eating a live fish and hitting the TV with her trident. She falls unconscious again and Thomas continues to care for her. Slowly, the woman gets used to living with Thomas and they fall in love, giving birth to a son called Arthur. One day, the family is enjoying a peaceful day when something blasts a hole in the house. Several guards enter the house and demand that the woman, Atlana, queen of the underwater kingdom of Atlantis, return home. She was to be married to King Orm and had fled to avoid the union, but now she has to go back and fulfill her duties. Atlana refuses and beats up the soldiers, killing them. However, she fears for her family's safety now that her people know where she is. She decides to go back to Atlantis and promises to return once she's sure they are safe. Thomas is left with a broken heart and a young child. Years later, Arthur goes on a field trip with his classmates. He starts talking with the fish in the aquarium, attracting the attention of his bullies. They harass him, but suddenly a shark hits the protective glass, cracking it slightly. Everyone is horrified at this behavior, but Arthur raises his hand and communicates with the shark. He then turns around and the sea creatures stand behind him, signaling the discovery of his powers. Atlana sends her advisor Vulko to train a teenager named Arthur. Initially, Arthur is easily beaten by Vulko, but as he grows older, he becomes more powerful and has control over his powers. In the present, Arthur, dubbed Aquaman, is a superhuman with great strength and invulnerability on land. One night, several pirates hijack a Russian submarine deep in the ocean. Something hits the submarine, causing the pirates to wonder what's happening. Arthur gets in the sub and starts dealing with the pirates one after the other. Their weapons are no match for his speed, and soon only 2 pirates remain, the leader Jesse Kane and his son David. David and Arthur start fighting and Jesse comes to aid his son by throwing a grenade at Arthur. Unfortunately, the grenade doesn't hurt Arthur. He grabs a pole and impales Jesse on the wall. Jesse shoots Arthur again, but he deflects it, and the bullet hits the submarine, causing it to start leaking water. A torpedo disengages and pins Jesse fatally. David asks for Arthur's help to save his father, but he refuses, saying that the two have done so much damage, forgiving them is not an option. Arthur exits the submarines and helps the stranded Russians to safety. At the same time, David bids his father farewell after promising to avenge him, and Jesse self-destructs with an explosive. In Atlantis, King Orm, the new ruler of Atlantis and Arthur's half-brother, meets with King Nereus of Zebel. He wants to unite the kingdoms and attack the humans on the surface for destroying the oceans by disposing waste in them. Nereus is reluctant to join Orm due to the rumors regarding Atlana's illicit son. Orm's ambition is to unite the 4 kingdoms so he can be the ocean master, commanding a great army that will help him defeat the surface dwellers. As the meeting's going on, a submarine ambushes and attacks them, injuring many soldiers. Orm says that the surface dwellers are behind the attack, causing Nereus to agree to work together. It's revealed that Orm had paid David to ambush the meeting so Nereus could agree to attack the surface dwellers. Orm gives David a weapon forged in Atlantis that can hurt Arthur. David is excited to hold the weapon and spends a lot of time studying and replicating it in his lab. Meanwhile, Princess Mira, daughter of Nereus, visits Arthur. She explains how her father and Orm intend to attack the surface dwellers. She wants Arthur to claim his rightful position on the throne as the eldest son and stop the war. Unfortunately, Arthur doesn't want anything to do with Atlantis since he learned that King Orm had killed Atlana for being involved with the surface dweller. One night, Arthur is taking his father home when he sees a tsunami approaching the town. He tries to drive his truck away from the fierce waters, but they catch up with him and separate him from his father. Luckily, Mira shows up and saves Thomas, making Arthur agree to travel to Atlantis. Arthur is amazed to see the beautiful underwater city of Atlantis. He reunites with Vulko in a secret place. Vulko explains that King Orm already has 2 kingdoms and only one remains until he's the supreme ruler. He tells Arthur that if he wants to unite the kingdoms and defeat Orm, he must find the Trident of Atlan. Vulko gives Arthur a short story of what happened to Atlantis. Atlantis was a great city on the surface with many developments and technological advancements. The leaders got greedy and accidentally unleashed a radioactive wave that sunk Atlantis into the ocean and gave them the ability to breathe underwater. Atlantis' first ruler hid the trident, fearing it would cause harm to his people. He spent his days in hiding, but Vulko has an idea of where the king's last resting place is. King Orm's guard raids the meeting and captures Arthur while Vulko and Mera escape to avoid being seen as traitors. Arthur tries to fight back, but the weapons used against him hurt him. He is taken to King Orm, who mocks him for being illegitimate and abandoning his post. Arthur challenges King Orm to a duel. Arthur is devastated to learn that Mera is betrothed to King Orm. Everyone watches as the two half-brothers start fighting. Arthur gets the upper hand when he nearly throws Orm into molten lava. Unfortunately, Orm easily beats up Arthur as he's more powerful and better equipped. Mera saves Arthur at the last minute, exposing herself. The two travel to the fallen kingdom of the deserters in the Sahara. They find the kingdom and place an artifact Vulko had given them on a large table, using Arthur's sweat to activate it. A hologram of King Atlan appears, and he gives them a riddle to find the trident, warning that only a true king can see it. The two find a map of Sicily, Italy as the next location. Just as they get there, they're ambushed by David, who now wears an Atlantean battlesuit and calls himself the Black Manta. David and Arthur fight, with Arthur getting wounded several times following the new weapons David wields. Unfortunately, David gets too ambitious and ends up taking himself out, falling into the jagged rocks below. Before the heavily wounded Arthur passes out, he asks Mera to destroy the bracelet Orm gave her as it has a tracker. Mera nurses Arthur's wounds as they travel to the trench, where the coordinates are revealed as the trident's location. The ship is attacked by creatures who inhabit the trench. Arthur and Mera try to fend off the creatures, but they are too many to be defeated, so the couple hides. Arthur finds some flares, realizing the creatures are afraid of light. He gives Mera some flares to keep the creatures away while he and Mera dive into the trench to find the trident. They soon find some light and travel towards it, horrified when it turns out to be a vortex that spins them around and separates them. Mera falls unconscious from the swirl and is about to be eaten by a creature when someone rescues her. The savior takes her to the uncharted sea, and Mera is surprised to see that her savior is none other than Atlana. Arthur also resurfaces and hugs his mother. She explains that she had been sacrificed to the trench for her affair with Thomas. Fortunately, she found the vortex and landed in the uncharted sea. Unfortunately, she couldn't leave and has been trapped in the sea for 20 years. Arthur explains his mission, and Atlana blesses him, warning that while the trident is here in a cave behind the waterfall, it's guarded by a ferocious monster called Karathan. Arthur sees the trident but is attacked by the Karathan. After evading the monster a few times, he is eventually found and about to be crushed. Arthur uses his power to communicate with the Karathan. The monster's surprised as no one had ever understood its language before except King Atlan. It allows Arthur to retrieve the trident as he is the true king of Atlantis. Back in Atlantis, King Orm and his armies face off against the last kingdom, the Kingdom of the Brine. They refuse to recognize him as the Ocean Master, causing a fight to ensue. Suddenly, Arthur appears, wielding the Trident of Atlan. The armies who see him immediately swear loyalty to him, acknowledging him as Atlantis' true king. Arthur challenges Orm to another duel, and everyone gathers to watch it happening, realizing the winner will be the true king. This time, Arthur beats Orm, but instead of killing him, he spares his life. Atlana suddenly shows up, asking the brothers to stop fighting. Orm is so excited to see his mother and agrees to be imprisoned for his crimes, grateful that Arthur saved Atlana. Arthur takes Atlana to reunite with Thomas while he ascends to the throne. In a mid-credit scene, Black Manta is seen lying on some rocks alive. He's rescued by someone and taken to a lab. When he comes to, he finds himself in the presence of Dr. Stephen Shin. Shin is a marine scientist obsessed with Atlantis and other conspiracy theories. David promises to help Shin find Atlantis on the condition that he helps him find out who Aquaman is.